everybody. This is Marcus Toole, and it is December 14th. And this is the first of 3 installments, video installments on how to find, identify, and transplant Vaccinium elliottii, which is a very good native blueberry species here in the southeastern United States. It is a super common plant in the coastal plains of South Georgia. I think its range extends well up into North Georgia, even up into North Carolina, and then across. I'm not sure how far west it goes. I think it makes it past the Mississippi River, but I will attach a distribution map to this video so that you can look on the map and see exactly where it is. This first video, I'm going to focus on finding the plants and distinguishing them from things that look like them, so that if you're in South Georgia in the late fall, early winter, then you want to collect Elliot's blueberry. Locally here in southeast Georgia, they are called huckleberries. Just a little bit of taxonomic information. The term huckleberry can basically be any blueberry-like berry, and what the name applies to depends on where you are regionally. If you were to look at a plant identification book for Georgia, South Carolina, or Florida, those books will tell you that huckleberries, what they call huckleberries, is the genus Gay-Lussacia, and that is not what we're looking at today. But just locally here in Bullitt County, Georgia, these bushes are called huckleberries, but the other names that apply to them in other parts of the country are Elliot's blueberry, southern huckleberry, swamp huckleberry, and mayberry. Those are the common names that I know for it. And I think some people refer to them as boxberries. All right, so we're going to take a little walk in the woods. There's a specific plant that I am going to collect because it has exceptionally good berries for a Vaccinium elliottii. And I know this because this is a walk I frequently take in late spring. We're talking April and May to go bluegill fishing, because this is because there's nearby is a spot on this lake where you can reach some very productive bluegill beds for late spring fishing. So, and I've munched the berries on this plant and know that it may have the best tasting and the largest huckleberries I have ever seen. And so I definitely want some plants from it in my yard. And it's taken me a couple of years to figure out where in my yard I have space for them, because my little orchard is just about full. All right, so we have all kinds of things that we're looking at here, one of which could be easily, especially this time of year, confused with Vaccinium elliottii, and that's this plant right here. This is Vaccinium arboreum, so this is in the same genus. It's a blueberry, although it's not one that's particularly good to eat. This is locally referred to as a sparkleberry or a farkleberry. And it has, and you can tell it from Vaccinium elliottii, that the leaves tend to be glossier, and they tend to be kind of flattened on the tip end of the leaf. It's kind of rounded. Whereas the Vaccinium elliottii, the leaves are much more pointy, and often the leaves are much smaller on Vaccinium elliottii, but this particular bush of Vaccinium arboreum has small leaves, which is one of the reasons why you can sometimes confuse them. And they're just especially easy to confuse them in the early spring when the leaves are young and are small, because they are young. All right, so here's another Vaccinium arboreum. And here is our Vaccinium elliottii. In fact, this is the plant that makes the really good berries. And see, in this plant, you know, some of the leaves are big enough that they're just as big as the Vaccinium arboreum, but they're more pointy at the end, and they also are not quite as shiny or thick as leaves. Another difference is that the overall aspect of the plant is more bush-like and less tree-like. Now, you may not be able to tell that with these plants in here. There's a Vaccinium arboreum over there, but they're much more likely to have a big single trunk and be, you know, 15 feet tall, whereas it's pretty rare to find a Vaccinium elliottii that's much taller than about 10 foot. And even when they do get tall, they tend to kind of flop over, and that's one of the ways they spread. They flop over and they kind of root to the ground. In the next video, I will actually talk about that and how to find, like, I'm not going to try to dig up this huge plant. For one thing, it would take forever, and the other thing, it would be kind of a shame to remove it from this spot. But I am going to try to collect some suckers from it and transplant them to my yard and get that strain going in a cultivation situation. But let's continue our walk, because we're going to come across another situation where we're going to see something that looks similar. So we kind of walk along the edge of this lake here. You can see the water. Very pretty land. Watch for rattlesnakes. Watch for water moccasins. See, here's another Vaccinium elliottii plant, or huckleberry. Here's another Vaccinium arboreum, or farkleberry. Okay, and we come up to this big population of Vaccinium elliottis. There's kind of a red plant there. This one's still kind of green. There's another one. And they're just thick in here. Just all kinds of them. That's very, very common plant in the woods of South Georgia. Very common. And you can get huge populations of them. And they're very good, you know, they're very tasty. I imagine the berries of any of these plants in here will be pretty good. But now we come to something that looks very similar, but is different. These leaves are quite a bit bigger and quite a bit longer. And this is Vaccinium. This could be a Vaccinium corybosum, but most likely it's Vaccinium tenellum. And the reason I say it's most likely Vaccinium tenellum, it's hard to tell them apart, but I happen to know that Vaccinium tenellum is way more common in this area than Vaccinium corybosum. But right above it, see the little teeny tiny leaves here of the Elliot's blueberry. Now, Vaccinium tenellum, this is an unusually big Vaccinium tenellum. I'm reaching here for Vaccinium tenellum. So we got the kind of the big bush there, and this is part of it here. And then there's a Vaccinium elliottii further up the hill. That's a huge plant that's kind of draping on top of it. And so you can see the big leaves of the Vaccinium tenellum and the little teeny tiny leaves of the Elliot's blueberry. Now, one of the things I'll tell you about Vaccinium tenellum, they actually have pretty good berries, and they're bigger berries than Vaccinium elliottii. They bloom later and they ripen later, and I don't think they're as good as, but I know flavor-wise they aren't as good as huckleberry. And the berries, while the berries are bigger than huckleberry, so they're easier to pick. The skin's kind of tough. The seeds are kind of big, and they don't have an enormous amount of flavor, but they make pretty good jam. The thing about them is that they ripen berries at the same time that our domesticated blueberry, the rabbit eye blueberry, makes berries, and the rabbit eye blueberries are way better. Whereas the Elliot's blueberry, it ripens berries earlier. Now they ripen at the same time as the southern high bush blueberries, but I actually think that the berries taste better than high bush blueberries and rabbit eye blueberries. They're just smaller. They're a little tartar. Well, actually, I shouldn't say they're tartar, because when you have very ripe berries from a good bush, they're actually sweeter. But they are often tartar, but they have a lot more flavor. So you can actually put a few, like a cupful of Elliot's blueberry in a pie with that's actually a blueberry pie that has say 3 cups of the rabbit eye blueberry or cultivar, and the Elliot's blueberry will just add a ton of extra flavor to it, and make that pie much better. And of course, there are few things I like better than a huckleberry cobbler, just with the huckleberries. They're just magnificent flavor-wise in a dish, and I like them raw, and I like them with cream and milk. Any way you eat a blueberry, these will outshine the blueberries any day, except in the area of size. This is the plant I'm going to collect, and so stay tuned for the next video. Look in my in the description section for the link to a distribution map. In terms of, there are other plants you can confuse with Vaccinium elliottii that are not blueberries at all. Privet, kind of Chinese privet looks like it, and you'll know it 2 ways. The leaves are opposite to each other, whereas a blueberry, it's always the leaves are always going to be alternate, back and forth, and the stems will be zigzag. The other way you can tell, so that's the privet, and privet will always be green. And then another one that you might have confused with it is bitter gallberry. Once again, bitter gallberry is always going to be green, and the leaves are going to be a little bit bigger. And then the last one you might confuse it with is a Yaupon holly. And once again, Yaupon holly, usually the leaves are going to be green, and this time of year, and the blueberries turn red, and they're narrower, and then actually Yaupon holly, the leaves are usually smaller. Anyhow, I will talk to you later and we'll continue. We'll begin collecting the blueberry plants in the next video. Talk to you later.